I'm watching this next big step for President Trump. We just finished the first 100 days. The next 100 days is really important. And part of his economic agenda is now in front of Congress. And he calls it the big, beautiful bill. It's basically the big budget. But there are some really interesting cross currents happening with Republicans, especially when it comes to Medicaid, et cetera. So set the stage for us. How do you think this will go from a 30,000-foot level?
Well, the first 100 days, in so many respects, were about solely Trump. He had executive orders. Him and his team were ready to go. They've been planning for years even, and they just unleashed them. I think it was 142 of their own ones and reversing over 100 of Biden's in those first 100 days. But this second 100 days, to your point, is going to be about two C's, the courts and Congress, right? So he has a lot of decisions making its way through the courts. The Supreme Court's term's up in June. That will have a massive impact. But to your point, right, laws are sticky. They're a lot harder to overturn. Executive orders can come and go as we overturn a bunch of Biden's. The next Democrat might overturn some of Trump's. But laws, as we know from trying to get through with Obamacare all those years, hard to overturn. So in the House, I don't envy Mike Johnson's job for many reasons, but he's done a good job navigating it so far. But you have folks in like Don Bacon, who's a Republican, in a swing district outside of Omaha, Nebraska, that is a swing voter on this. He's a moderate Republican, but then you have harder, more red district R's who really want deep cuts, to say nothing of the Senate.
Don Bacon's district, that Omaha district, did that go Trump?
It went Harris. It's one of the few Harris districts represented by a Republican.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Very few.
Yeah, very.
So, and then you have somebody like a Josh Hawley from Missouri. Excuse me. I was going to say St. Louis, but represents the state of Missouri, and he has strong feelings. Now, this is all at the beginning stages. But why does all of this matter? First of all, if you're listening, this matters because the Trump tax cuts from 2017, which helped fuel economic growth, they are set to expire this year. Mm-hmm. And if the bill doesn't include these tax cuts, then everybody, including the middle class, will have an increase in their taxes. What I find kind of curious is that the Democrats are fighting on the Medicaid front rather than pointing out the middle class issue, or that Republicans aren't focusing on that enough. That will probably come. Who has the better messaging going into this fight?
I think that remains to be seen. In some ways, we haven't gotten, aside from the Medicaid part, a ton of the actual messaging about it. It's been a lot about a process. Can Republicans pass this bill? And to your point, why it matters is this is likely going to be the biggest law Trump passes, at least this year, if not his whole second term, most likely. Like, they're trying to just jam all these different topics in it, from taxes to, you're exactly right, to immigration. I think there'll be some things on there, energy. You get really a few shots at this. So everybody's going to try and get their priority out before the train leaves the station. That's why it really, really matters what's in this bill and what's not in the bill.
And what about the fact that you have such slim margins in the House? Are there enough conservative Republicans that would hold tight to make sure that there are actually more cuts?
You know, that's what the tricky part with Johnson is, right? Because they're going to demand, as you said, if they only have really one or two shots at this to pass this, they're going to want the deepest and, most complete cuts to spending possible. And you have somebody like a Don Bacon or somebody like Mike Lawler up in New York, moderate districts, swing voters. That's going to be a tough pill for them to swallow. And I thought it was notable when Don Bacon even said that he had a red line on Medicare cuts. In theory, that even just opened the negotiation that he was open to it, which I think was telling for me.
How much is President Trump going to have to weigh in here and try to get this across the finish line?
He has to be really in the weeds on this. I mean, well, you saw the budget come through earlier this year, the Mike Johnson speaker vote. When Trump makes these calls, it's a lot harder for these very deep Republican members to say no. And so he's going to have to really lean on them if he wants this passed.
Tell me a little bit more about how this is shaping the midterms. Now, it's too early to talk about the midterms, kind of. Yeah. But the reason the midterms matter is that because the margins are so narrow, mostly in the House. I think the Senate probably remains Republican. But the Democrats are going to try to win back majority. I don't see that happening right now, but there's not too long to go between now and then. There's been so many retirements.
Yes.
So people deciding to seek higher office or to just age out or to just leave, because if you can't get anything done, you don't feel productive, you don't want to be a member of Congress anymore. Okay, so how does that all set the stage for what's to come in the midterms?
I mean, look, as for what the issues we're going to be talking about next November, it's too early to tell on that. But you're exactly right. We will know the contours of the playing field. Seats like Don Bacon, whether he retires or not, will be a major factor in who wins the House. Mike Lawler, those people I just mentioned. But also, this is the problem when you and I first met each other in 2017, 2018, when I was at the NRCC. You had chair people who were there for 20 years, who had a pretty good hold in their district. Even though it was more of a toss-up district on paper, they won by 10, 15 points every year. But the Republicans have what Democrats don't, which is term limits for committee chairs. So you can do 6 years on top of a committee and then you're done. So when those terms are up, people are like, well, why do I want to stick around and be a backbencher if I've been in Congress for 25 years? Mm-hmm. So a guy like Ed Royce, who was out in California, said, thanks but no thanks. So suddenly that district was a toss-up district where it never was before. So those are the ones that come online. Really, the time you're going to hear about them is the holidays. End of this year, early next. Okay. That's when you really get a lot of those.
And what about the Senate?
Senate, I mean, the Democrats' two biggest pickup options are Maine and in North Carolina. Susan Collins is just a dynamo. I mean, everybody thought she was going to be.
Was she going for her fifth or sixth term?
Let's see, she was elected in 98, so I don't know, do the math on that.
Okay.
But yeah, a while. And everybody left her for dead, in 2020 with Trump on the ballot, and she won overwhelmingly. So I think even Democrats are bearish on picking up that. Tillis will be a tight race, but that's it.
And Tillis is in North Carolina.
Yeah, Ted Cruz is not going to, or no, it's not Ted Cruz. John Cornyn is not going to lose in Texas.
Could John Cornyn? So John Cornyn is a senator from Texas. He is facing a primary challenge from Ken Paxton, who is saying that he's to Cornyn's right, which I think, and I'm sure Cornyn's like, how can you be to the right of me? But maybe it's the new right. And so there will be an intra-party fight. Now, the NRSC typically always backs the incumbent. Do you think President Trump will back the incumbent here?
I mean, I think he should. Cornyn's been a great senator, and Tim Scott and the NRSC are backing Cornyn really fervently. Look, if Cornyn wins that primary, again, Democrats will make noise about it, but it's not real. I don't know what the playing field looks like if Paxton wins. I haven't done enough research on that, but if Cornyn wins, he's on to another term fairly easily.
I wanted to talk about Democrats for a moment. It continues. They are adrift. I'm telling you, I'm looking for anything to compliment. A few things seems to have happened. First of all, I think that until there's a Democrat that deals with the Biden acuity cover-up or just like the fact that there were all of these problems and they were still asking Democratic donors to send them money, until somebody actually deals with that or until the party deals with it, I think they're just going to be floundering for a while.
I agree. I mean, this reminds me a little bit. I experienced the Jeb in 2016 for his own unique reasons, obviously. But this was a real thing in 2008 when all these Republicans ran to succeed George W. Bush, where you needed an answer on the Iraq war and it needed to be convincing. And it wasn't until you could deal with that answer in a credible way that other folks took you seriously. And I think Democrats, we need to do that with the Biden legacy. It's something they don't want to talk about. They want to push it under the rug. But they need to address it and talk about their role in it, honestly, as a party, if they're ever going to move forward from this. I mean,
I feel like the Democrat who will do that and sort of say, yeah, that was ridiculous and I wasn't a part of it, or I renounce that, or I wish I would have, whatever it might be, to finally and decisively do it. I mean, would it really hurt a Democrat that much to do that at this point?
No, I think what they don't recognize, Biden is toxic among Democrats. They've you look at his numbers, the base and Democrats of the party cannot stand him. And so renouncing him, in my opinion, it gets you upside. However, they haven't experienced the same kind of disruption that Republicans have. So they still get very nervous about taking on kind of the party elders. I mean, we saw this all last year.
What about that Kamala Harris has now found at least a few people who will anonymously tell the reporters that, yeah, she's the possible person that we want to have in office?
The fact that they had to say that anonymously tells you everything you need to know. Everything you need to know. Mm-hmm. Like, she ran a terrible campaign. I mean, they can blame it on Joe Biden all they want. He has some culpability, but she ran an awful campaign. She's always been a bad communicator. She's been a bad candidate. California masks a lot of ills because you can just raise a lot of money and spend it on TV ads. You don't need to be a good campaigner hand to hand. And that she was exposed. She was exposed when she ran for president the first time. She's exposed again.
You know what I think one of their problems is? Even though I'm interested, I'm bored.
Yeah.
By the Democrats. I'm like, does anybody have anything interesting to say? Any new idea? You know, we throw them out there all the time on the 5. I've been saying for a while, where's the Democrat who's going to say that education results in this country are unacceptable and take on the teachers union? Just be a little different. Come up with something interesting, like the oligarchy tour that Bernie and AOC are on. That's not going to do it. Trump is always interesting. It's like too much interesting. Like, we're so tired of interesting. I'm just kidding. But it's just like, it's constant. There's 25 news stories a day. And the Democrats cannot break through. But I also find them, I just think it's kind of boring.
I mean, Trump was raised. I remember Regis Philbin talking about having dinner with Trump. And he always said he was entertaining. He's interesting. He's an interesting guy. Regardless of what you think about him, if you got stuck talking to him at a party, you'd enjoy the experience, right? Like, I think I said this over the weekend on X, like, too many of the Democrats you see in power today are just humorless scolds who, like, if you got stuck talking at a party, you'd be like looking over their shoulder. Who else I can talk to?
Who else is here?
Yeah, like they're not interesting. They come at you from either boring or that they're better than you.
And also, President Trump took one of their weapons off the table this weekend. So he was asked by Kristen Welker of Meet the Press about running for a third term, because this has been what the Democrats basically want to say. See, he's a dictator. He wants to run forever. Yeah. And basically he said, yeah, that's not happening.
I thought he was very prepared in that interview. He was very disciplined in that interview, especially whether it's economic questions, immigration questions. That question stood out. I thought it was a very good interview. I thought it illuminated a lot. And I thought it was very well done.
So he said he wouldn't run for a third term, and she said, so who do you think takes over MAGA from you? And he said it could be 15 to 20 people, which would make for a pretty large debate stage. But he said J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio. And I don't know why he specifically said those two, unless they were just top of mind or if there was strategery behind that decision. But that's an interesting dynamic between two people who might want to run for president while they're currently working for President Trump.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think certainly, like, JD is a leg up, right? Like, he was already elected to federal office nationally. He's vice president of the United States. And he'd be great. Same with Marco. I mean, look, even Trump was it was somewhat competitive primary when he was ran as a former president. So I don't think, I mean, let's pretend that JD runs. He'll have somebody run against him at least. I mean, I think it'll be somebody competitive.
But I guess that I was kind of surprised is that President Trump, from the get-go, is saying, I'm not going to anoint someone.
Smart. I mean, I
thought that was really smart, too.
That's smart.
And also, it gives me something to really look forward to in terms of the coverage of another like, imagine open primaries on both sides. That's amazing.
Oh, I mean, it'll be great. And, like, you know him. Like, he'll dangle it. He'll make people kind of, work for it a little bit. And he'll comment, like, on X or on Truth Social, whatever. If there's a debate, if there's some big story, he'll weigh in. He'll find a way to get himself in there.
What are you paying attention to that I might be missing?
3 things. Conclave starts this week in Rome on Wednesday. That's the biggest election of them all, really, for now. Mother's Day on Sunday. Don't forget it. I know you won't, but neither will I, but the listeners. The last thing, it's gone under the radar a little bit. Sean Duffy's going to unveil a plan to modernize air traffic control in the country, and maybe that gets slipped into the reconciliation bill. I mean, our air traffic control is really outdated, and I think a lot of people would be surprised how outdated it is. So if he can make that change and Congress can appropriate the money, that'd be huge. Yeah,
there was a big article in the New York Times today about how bad things are at Newark Airport. And then over the weekend, there were those terrible, I wouldn't say near misses, but problems around Reagan National again.
Yeah. I'm being a little bit hyperbolic here, but like you'd be shocked, like it's like almost like MS-DOS. So, remember that old computer
Yes.
program? These planes run on in a lot of respects. It can be so much better. And it needs to be for, I think, safety and just the convienience, too.
That's pretty
Delays
exciting.
and
So
things like
Sean Duffy is rolling that out soon?
Yeah, this week there's an article in Bloomberg today about it.
Oh, that's great. I would take a moment just to say thank you so much for coming to the book event I did live on Fox Nation with the White House Press Secretary, Caroline Levit, where I had the idea for her to interview me on stage. And we didn't talk politics at all. It's available at Fox Nation for everyone to take a listen to that. Maybe if you wouldn't mind, I'm kind of putting you on the spot to talk about that evening. And again, thank you for coming.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Congrats on the book, by the way.
Thank you.
Bestseller, New York Times, fantastic. Caroline's so impressive, and I'm such a fan of hers. And so seeing you guys up there chatting away was awesome. The advice is fantastic, and I have several copies already. So congratulations again. That was a great night. It was small. You gave some great advice. You had kind of videos from other Fox personalities. They gave advice. Then the next night, my girlfriend and I watched it on Fox Nation.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
it was great with the dog there too. So
Millie,
it was a
Millie
great night.
she is my biggest fan. Millie, I can't wait to meet her in person. Yeah, and your mom watched anyway. So it was a really great experience. I love that we could talk about that important role as a White House press secretary. She's the youngest. I was the second Republican woman, and then there were several people there that night who were guests of Perino on politics. So that meant a lot to me, and thank you so much.
It was my pleasure to be there. It was great seeing you, and the book is awesome, and your advice was great too. So thank you again
so
for
much.
having me.
All right, we'll have more Perino on politics next week.